is Stevenson, and this is the show Bethel Today from the Bethel Democratic Town Committee. And I'm here today speaking with Matt Knickerbocker, our first selectman, and we're going to talk about the past 6 years of accomplishments and what we see for the future. So welcome, Matt. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
I haven't had you here in a while.
I know. It's been a while, but I always enjoy it. I always like to talk to you, and you do a great job, and it's always nice to talk to the people of Bethel, too.
Good. So let's start with, let's talk about 6 years. What things you've done. You've done a lot.
Yeah, can you believe it? It doesn't seem like it could possibly be that long, but yeah, it's been 6 years. And we have accomplished a lot, and I'm not going to take a lot of credit for that, because the key to that success is working across the aisle and working cooperatively with the people of Bethel, with the other boards and commissions. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter what anybody says, being first selectman is not like being a governor or a president or even a big city mayor.
Right.
We have a town meeting form of government. That means that the authority is decentralized across many boards and commissions. It forces a collaborative process. And that's really, it dates back to colonial times, pre-colonial times, and that's the way people wanted it. They did not want a strong mayor who would dictate things. They wanted their hands on things, and that's exactly what we have. So, with that being said, what have we been able to accomplish? I'm going to talk about the least visible of those things, but I think it's the most important. And that is the fact that we have really revamped the town's financial system a lot.
Okay.
We have put money back into the general fund. We've made it healthy. We've put it up to levels that have attracted the attention of the bond rating agencies. So we have earned and have been reaffirmed now for 2 years in a row, a AAA bond rating. And people might get sick of hearing that. It's in the literature. It's been in the paper.
But it's important because it affects everything that goes on here in terms of any kind of improvements we need to be making to existing facilities and how much it's going to cost us, and ultimately it keeps our taxes lower.
It does.
When we need to do what we need to do.
What it does, it's like it's just like any family that has a really high credit rating. If you have a high credit rating, you get lower interest rates. Mm-hmm. And right now we're borrowing, when the town needs to borrow money on short-term notes, it's at a 0.18%, or what they call 18 basis points. It's practically free money. The interest rates are so low it barely covers the lender's administrative costs.
Right.
But this is something that as we go through the next 10, 20, 30 years, anything big ticket that needs to be done, and we know that in municipal management there will be things. You can't avoid it. You know, right now we're talking about what to do with our police station.
Right.
Some years down the road there's going to be, there will never be a need to open a new school, but there will probably be a need to renovate schools.
Oh, absolutely.
Fire trucks wear out. The last fire truck we bought, which we just took delivery on last week, was a $700,000 machine. In 20 years when another one wears out, or 15 years when one's due for replacement, they'll probably be over $1 million.
Yep.
And often it makes more sense to borrow money on a short-term basis than to just pay cash for it or to put it on a big bond. So the AAA bond rating literally saves us over a 20-year span millions of dollars in operational interest costs that go right into our budget. So that's, I think, one of the most important things. And this was accomplished, Bob Kozlowski and I. Bob Kozlowski, of course, is the town comptroller.
Right.
We created some proposals together. We brought them to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen adopted them. Then we presented them to the Board of Finance. And to their credit, we worked together.
Right.
Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance together, did this together and adopted these. And then Board of Finance went a little bit beyond that, too. So really, it's the collaboration that made this happen.
Right.
So, okay, let's go to the visible things.
Okay.
And I'm sure people get so tired of hearing me say this, but we've paved 26 miles of roads. And it's important because year after year, week after week, the number one phone call I still get in the office is, when is my road going to get paved? I've got potholes galore. And of course, 2 winters of really severe cold did a ton of damage to those roads.
Absolutely.
So the fact is, over the past 5 years, we have given that a priority. We have literally tasked the highway department really beyond their capabilities. We've given them so many roads to do in every season that if you have too many rainstorms, and of course hurricanes don't help either, it's actually pushed some roads off the schedule. You physically can't do any more roads than we have done. So yeah, I know that there's some noise out there about, well, we need to plan better, get the roads done sooner. The only way you do that is you drastically crank up your budget and hire more contractors, and then you raise taxes to cover it.
Well, and I think the other thing too is with dealing with things that were allowed to slide, because there were a lot of things in this town that were allowed to slide for a lot of years.
That is exactly right.
And all kinds of stuff, but part of getting on top of it and making sure that you're putting money where it needs to be and having the really good rating is that over time we would hope that we know what are the things that need to come down the pike, what's going to happen when the roads are going to need attention again, because things have a lifespan.
They do, and I'm glad you brought that up.
And you can plan for that.
Exactly right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that was lacking the day I took office in 2009 was a capital plan. It didn't exist. The town was literally budgeting itself on a hand-to-mouth basis. Like I get my paycheck in and I spend it. There was no planning for the future, and as you said, roads are going to deteriorate. Buildings are going to deteriorate.
Correct.
They don't get better with age. Right. They're not bottles of wine.
Exactly.
That fire trucks are going to wear out and going to need to be replaced.
Exactly.
One of the things we did last year is we hired a consultancy in the public safety arena to come in and look at our fire trucks and look at our two departments. Now, I'll remind people that we have two independent volunteer fire companies. They're not, we don't have one fire chief, we have two. And they don't really report to town hall. They're funded.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they're funded by, and this is very common in New England, they're funded by both donations and by tax dollars to buy their equipment and their real estate, but they are licensed by the state of Connecticut, and they get their license, and they operate completely independently, although all of our departments in our region have mutual aid agreements.
Right.
But what we did was hired a consultancy to come in and say, pretend we have one fire department with two houses. Now tell us, with the development that is coming in the future, whatever there is, and with the age of the equipment and with the needs that they have, give us a 20 to 30 year horizon and tell us what kind of equipment we need to coordinate as if it's one department. So you don't have a ladder truck in one that's exactly like the same ladder truck in another. You don't need that, because they can coordinate their activities.
Right, because they work together.
That's
they do
right.
Collaborate, okay.
So I said, tell us when each truck needs to be replaced, what year. So they've given us a 20-year schedule. We can expect to replace the next one in the year, I think, 2019, 2020, something like that. Tell us how much money we need to set aside in our budget each year to save up, so that when that fire truck needs to be replaced, you don't have to go to the bond market and get $1 million bond. You can just, you've got it set aside. These are things called sinking funds, and a lot of towns use them to set aside money for projects they know are coming up, and then they don't need to borrow. Now we don't have the budget yet where we can afford to start a sinking fund. We've got it mapped out, and this is a plan for the future. But this is another thing that I'm very proud of, that we've put together this planning. So now we have all of town needs, the fire departments, the police department, the schools, park and rec, town hall, all of the capital needs are on a 10-year rolling horizon plan, and every year we update it. We know when town-owned bridges need to be inspected. We know when they might need to be replaced going out to 2025, 2030, and then every year those things slide another year closer, and you make evaluations.
Exactly. And now what should also, I imagine, happen is that as you get closer, so you're saying it's going to 2022, 2025, that as you move closer to that, then we look another 10 years out, and we look another 10 years out, so that we know.
With each year, you just add another year on the end of the scale. And this is one of the reasons that we did earn the AAA bond rating, is that the bond agencies say a town that has the ability to plan in this manner, and the ability to maintain its not its grand list, but its general fund at a healthy level, and not be tempted to dip into it when times get tough and you're having trouble passing a budget. That dipping into the general fund to do that can kill your bond rating overnight.
Right.
So the fact that I'll commend our our Board of Finance for not succumbing to the pressure a few years ago to dip into that general fund.
Right.
They held the line, and immediately after that, we had a bond rating call, which is when they basically ask you a bunch of questions and they make you justify what you do, and they say, okay, you're still AAA. You guys did a good job. So I give those folks credit for that. So that's those are a couple of the big ones. Moving on. We had a lot of discussion about the utility department a few years ago.
Yes.
For better, for worse.
Well, there were some things that were going on around some of the utilities that needed some attention.
The big problem with the utility department was mostly the water department. Yes. Water and sewer together had drained $2.8 million right out of that general fund. So even though the general fund back in those days in 2009, 2010 was minimal, almost half of it wasn't there at all. It was
right.
Imagine opening up the safe and there's some money on this side and there's a great big IOU that says, I owe you $2.8 million. Thank you, Bethel Utility Department. So the people of Bethel actually did not have that money in the bank.
Right.
That has been solved. The debt that was owed by the sewer department has been paid back into that general fund completely. And both the sewer and water operations have been restored to profitable operations. And I'm going to say profitable just in the way that they don't lose money, because
correct.
They're intended to break even to be a value to the user, not to make the town money.
But it's not draining.
But it's not draining
the town anymore.
And all but about $500,000 or $600,000 of the water debt has been repaid, and it's chipping down. The way you have to do that, of course, is to raise rates.
Sure.
And that's not something you want to do as a shock to really burden people. So we've done two things. We've raised rates where they've had to, and this is not actually my doing alone. This is the responsibility of the Public Utilities Commission. But we've also gone out and sought out many, many grants to do the improvements, to pay for the new water mains that are going in, the new pumps. The new big water tank that is now under construction up in Eureka Lake. A lot of this construction is going to be offset through grants, and that's going to hold down rates to the ratepayers. We are still, in all of Western Connecticut, going all the way up to the Mass line, we are still the second lowest water provider of any agency.
Lowest cost, you mean?
Lowest cost.
Yeah.
The only one that's lower is Danbury, because they have a big industrial base. And the industrial users kind of subsidize the homeowners. But one notch up from Danbury is the town of Bethel, and then you've got, 10 or 15 systems above that are much, much more expensive.
Because one of the things that was going on with the water system is that the rates had not been raised in Bethel for
the rates
something long.
Well, the rates had not been changed for 20 years leading up to the late 2000s. And then the Burke administration did a study. The study recommended that they raise rates steadily for 5 years to get caught up. They put in 1 year, I think 1 or 2 years worth of rate increases, and then they abandoned it. So when Richie and I took office in December of 2009, the deficit had ballooned tremendously in the previous 2 years. It had gone up to $2.8 million.
Right, so that's how it was.
So we had to do two things. We had to get the finances under control, and we also had to do the same thing I just mentioned. We actually put together a 20-year capital plan. So we know to meet the new health department regulations from the state of Connecticut, to provide clean water, and most importantly, to provide enough water to support new business development in Clark Park. Then these improvements have to go, really you have to just keep improving the system over the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
But again, don't expect big shocks to the rates.
Well, that's if you do it gradually over 20 years, it's much easier to accommodate than it's like, all right, let's just do it all in 1 year, and now guess what, here's the tag.
It's a slow build-up, and again, a lot of it will be covered by grants, and some of it will also be covered by low-interest loans from the state of Connecticut itself, which they specifically set up for what they call small-town water systems. So that's under control, and that was a big project, but we got that under control too.
Good. So what else? What's something else that you think that you'd talk about?
The road program still has to continue. There's probably 5 or 6 miles left to go on that original list that we announced back in 2010. Those, in addition to those, you also have to leave room in the budget and the schedule for whatever Mother Nature does to you in the winter. Like
Exactly.
This past year we had to add 2 or 3 roads that were not on the list, but winter just destroyed them. Like the section of Shelter Rock by Knickerbocker Park.
Yes.
That looked like it had been an artillery range for a while.
It really did.
And it was a tough problem because the weather got warm and people were just howling, come and fix that. You got to do something with that. But you can't start the frost line. It was so cold last winter, the frost line was down 5 feet below the surface.
Wow.
So even though it had gotten warm in April, you can't start the paving until the ground thaws.
Yeah, exactly.
So that paving started on May 7th. Which was very early, and then paving went all the way through the system.
Right.
So so the priorities coming up are complete the road system, and then go back to that capital plan and make sure that we've got enough money in that budget to keep up with them. Don't let them fall behind again.
Exactly.
That is just, it's so tempting, I think, for municipal leaders to say, we got a budget crunch, the budgets might not pass. Let's take a few $100,000 out of that road account, then we'll put it back in next year. But the problem is, once you take it out, the following year you got to bump it back up again. It's another increase that has a plus in front of it. And people say, what's this increase? So year after year, you trim it here, you trim it there, and all of a sudden you've got roads that you can barely drive on. And that's exactly what we went through. So we have to not do that. We have to maintain what we've invested in. So that's one. Number two, as we transition, we've gotten something like $2.7 million in grant monies to do the roads, to do a lot of this construction. Some of it was related to the sewer project. I'll come back to that too. But as we finish this heavy-duty road construction and shift more into a maintenance mode, now we have to take those grant monies that we can apply for and start connecting our neighborhoods with sidewalks and safe places for kids to walk to school, for people to walk downtown. We want to have a viable retail district downtown.
Sure.
It's got to be walkable. You can't have a sidewalk that ends and now you've got, in the middle of winter, you got to walk into a slushy road to go around a section of sidewalk that's not there.
Right.
We can do this. It might take 10 years. It might take 20 years to get enough money together to do this. But we can do this, and pedestrian and child safety, I think, is one of the most important things we need to do.
Yes.
Priority number 2, go back to that village retail district. It's time that we have some real incentives to try to attract some business. Now, I am going to go back and say many people look at those few empty storefronts that are on Greenwood Avenue and say, they're empty storefronts. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do about that? A lot of that has to do with property owners. They really have to be willing to adjust their retail space for changing conditions.
Absolutely.
You have to look over the last 10 years and look at how retail has changed. 10 years ago, Amazon was barely there.
Right.
The mall was different.
Yep.
People buy things differently today, and it's really up to property owners to look at the space they have and say, how can I market this space effectively?
Sure.
And they have to be able to negotiate rents. They have to be willing to put the right kind of business in there.
Sure.
Now, the fact is that in the last 6 years, developers in Bethel have opened up over 122,000 square feet, 122,000 square feet of new retail space. And it's
in
full.
the village? Or
No, some of it is, because you look at Dolan Square.
Sure. Sure.
I can't think of the name of the building where it's over by the Burger King.
Yes.
That was all renovated.
Yes.
A lot of new retail spaces opened up out on Route 6.
Yes.
So Bethel is attractive to retail.
Right.
If you have the right kind of retail. You can't just take a shoebox store that's no longer big enough for an entrepreneur to make a living in that space and say, well, take it or leave it.
Right.
Because that's what's happened. But I think we need to provide some incentives for property owners to redevelop those spaces and work with the town and make those attractive so that they can be filled up. Because really, that little section, that's the last area that we need to address. Everything else is pretty good.
Yeah.
But, but we have to have the right kind of businesses, too. If you go back 20 years, there were clothing stores, shoe stores.
Yes.
And let's face it, if Bethel shoppers were willing to support them,
They'd
they wouldn't have gone away.
That's right.
But
That's
the mall
right.
opened and things changed. So we really have to attract a whole different kind of business to that. And I think this is one of the things that the Bethel Forward project is about, is getting feedback. I participated in that. One of the questions they ask is, what kind of store would you like to see on Greenwood Avenue? You know, a gourmet shop, you know, shoes, clothing, kids stuff, toys. And that's the kind of feedback that they're trying to ascertain.
Right, sure.
And then develop.
Have we seen any answers? I mean, like, were you able to like look through or hear?
No, but I'm not sure.
Because that would be interesting.
Oh, well, they're going to reveal the results of those discussions on the 29th of October.
Okay.
So, and if this airs in time, if this is not after the 29th, I would encourage everybody to attend that meeting. And that'll it's on the town website.
Okay.
I think it starts at 7 o'clock. But yeah, they will
that'll be
reveal.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
the results of those discussions will be revealed, and there'll be more discussions, and say, what do you think of this?
Yep.
So that's not bad.
So with doing more about the pedestrian traffic and having people walking back and forth, because I know that there's been other times where there's been a fair amount of conversation with regards to parking in downtown.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that Bethel Forward would also kind of be taking a look at that and thinking about that in some way as well, because that is part of our situation.
It is. Well, whatever happens with Bethel Forward, if Bethel Forward moves forward or it doesn't move forward,
Right.
We already have a plan for parking that's on paper, and it's very complicated. What it does, it involves purchasing property that's across from Town Hall on School Street.
Yes.
So there's the bank parking lot, then there's Dr. Volpentesta's parking lot, then there's another building, and then there's the Grosso parking lot. This plan, which was originally developed as part of our streetscape 15, 18 years ago, calls for purchasing segments of those, creating one large municipal lot with a pedestrian walkway that goes up to Greenwood Avenue, so that people who wanted to shop Greenwood Avenue could park in the back and walk right up, and they're right there.
Right.
And this is something that I have already started researching. I contacted Wells Fargo Bank, for example, and to contact their real estate department to say, would you be willing to let a piece of that lot go for this effort? Or if not, would you be willing to lease it? Or maybe it would even be something that would be a benefit to you if you gave it to us, and then we could assume the maintenance of the lot.
Sure.
So this is going to be a multi-year effort to get there.
Oh, yes.
But regardless of what happens with the other ideas for development,
sure,
they may or may not ever come to fruition. But we do need to address this, and this is on my radar, along with finding grant money to spruce up streetscape, because it's getting old. You know, that's true. The pavers are heaving. We did do some nice things this year. We painted all the light poles. I did have a citizen come into my office last week and say, "Thanks for the new light poles." And which ones were those? No, they were painted. They look brand new. Turns out that they were never painted when they were put in. They were primed,
but never painted.
But nobody ever painted them. So we painted them.
Now they're painted.
Today, the Park and Rec crew started replacing the old benches downtown to put in brand new ones, and they're scraping out the mold and all that stuff. But we really need to spruce up and refresh the streetscape.
Sure.
We already have a grant to expand it down past the railroad tracks too.
Yeah, that would make sense for the continuity.
For continuity.
Absolutely.
So that's a good effort too. So I think that will help attract new businesses to the downtown area as well. Anything,
because we are within our last 5 minutes, any other things that you're going into the future that you'd like to? Okay.
Police station. We had a referendum last December. It was a star-crossed referendum, as they say. The police station failed by only 69 votes. The Public Site and Building Commission has come back to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance with a proposal. It looks like it's going to be like roughly $1 million less, like 900 something, with what they've proposed. The Board of Selectmen has not deliberated on it yet.
Right.
But this is something that is going to be a top priority moving into the upcoming year.
Okay. And so that's something that's just in the immediate, anything beyond, because so that's a real big thing that we need to be looking at. And any other things that you kind of would like to see, that you have kind of in mind to do for the town that you guys haven't gotten around to yet, or?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of internal stuff that the public might not see until it's revealed. It falls under the area of what is known in the business as e-government. And basically what it is software. Mm-hmm. You take government functions, municipal functions, that services to the people, and you automate them and let people take care of things themselves. And the big project that we're working on right now is online permitting. So health department permit, building permits, being able to submit plans for building permits, all that stuff that you have to take a folder with paper and walk around from one office to another to have this department sign off on it. Right. Sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, that will be all online. And we've already rolled out online services. And I don't know if you've seen that.
I have actually gone. I've noticed that things are very different. Well, very different on the website.
Right.
You can
so
see things. And
we've put a quick link page. Yep. You can pay taxes. You can find information. We've synchronized the calendar, so you can say, I wonder what meetings are happening at Town Hall. And
that's kind of good.
And you can click on the date. You can see the meeting. When you click on the meeting, it brings up the agenda.
Oh, that's great.
All those things are now integrated, and they weren't before. So I'm really excited about that. Those are improvements that are going to make town government not only more friendly but more efficient and reduce the need to hire more people as the business goes up.
Cool. Very cool. I had a question and it went away. I forget because I know that we're being told that our time is kind of.
I know it's kind of hard to watch these cards, that say 1 minute, 30 seconds.
I know. But we are to 1 minute. So election is
Tuesday, November 3rd.
November 3rd. Polls are open.
Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. All 5 polling places will be open. And I do encourage everybody to come and vote.
Absolutely. And I'm assuming that we probably already have absentee ballots available at the town clerk's office.
Yeah, absentee ballots have been available for a while.
And will she have the town clerk's office open on Saturdays from 8 to noon or whatever it is she's done in the past? Do we know?
I'm pretty sure she will. You can check the town website or check the town clerk's Facebook page for that information. But she always does the Saturday.
That's what I figured, is that we would be able to do that. So we do have the election coming up. It's a municipal election. Every board has got open seats. Do remember to vote, please. It's how we make sure the town operates the way we want it to. And again, this is Bethel Today. This is the show of the Bethel Democratic Party. And I've been interviewing our first selectman, Matt Knickerbocker, who is running with his partner, Richard Straighton, for another term. And thank you very much. We'll see you again later. Bye-bye.